All right, Jeff, you're a scientist. What is your take? What is RTB's take on this issue?
Well, as we've discussed this amongst the scholars, we've kind of broken this down and tried to figure out how to focus on what the science says and then how to distinguish that from the political aspects and how to deal with that. Because what the science has to say and how you deal with the politics are really two different issues. And the way I've kind of come to do it, and a number of the scholars at RTB, is to break it down into 4 questions that help us focus on where the science is clear and where the science is less clear so that we know how to deal with that.
All right. What are some helpful ways to go through that then?
Well, the first question I think you need to ask is, what is the science saying about, is the globe actually warming up? Is the average temperature of the globe warming up? And I think every resource I've seen, there are some, the way it's played out in the popular arena makes it a little more controversial than it is. But as my understanding of the scientific literature is, there is almost unequivocal data that the average surface temperature of the globe is indeed warming up. And so the science answers that one pretty clearly. Is the globe warming up? The answer is yes.
Okay, so despite what others might say, RTB's position, your position, is that the globe has indeed been warming up.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, having established that, is there indeed a human contribution?
Well, and that's exactly the second question is, okay, if the globe is warming, and the answer seems to be yes, what's the human component of that? And that's difficult, a little more difficult to tease out because there's astronomical effects. You've got asteroids hitting the Earth, stuff hitting the surface. You've got the sun's luminosity kind of changes and the amount of sunspots, all that affects things. You've got atmospheric effects, how much clouds there are, what junks up there, the gases that are in the atmosphere. You've got biological effects, geological, all sorts of things that impact that. But as people have modeled that, and again, my understanding of what the scientific literature says is that there's a clear human component of that. Now, in asking our climatologist that we interviewed about this, he said he'd put it somewhere between 20% of the effect to 80% of the effect. And what that says is that humans definitely have a role in this, but they're not the sole contributor to it. And obviously more research needs to be done there, but it does seem to pretty strongly indicate that humans do have a significant role in the fact that the globe is getting warmer.
All right, what would be a third question to ask?
Well, then the third question is, how big a deal is this? We look back in not in human history, but in the history of the Earth, and the Earth has been much warmer in the past, and it's been much colder in the past. And it's unclear scientifically whether that makes the Earth less or more habitable or not. Now, RTB's position is that God has put humanity on the globe at the time when it's optimally provided for humanity. And so in that position, we would argue that if we're changing the global temperature by any significant amount, that is going to decrease the habitability. And so that would give us pause or at least reason to say, okay, we need to take global warming seriously and to think about what sorts of solutions we could do to deal with this. But scientifically, it's a less clear question as to whether this is really a big deal or not. There's a lot of things you can talk about polar bears losing their habitat and water levels, sea levels going up and down, but it's not clear to me, and I don't think the scientific data is really clear as to whether that makes the Earth less habitable or not. But nonetheless, I do think it's important that we take this seriously and at least start thinking about what could be done.
All right, and then I guess that would be the fourth question then?
Well, I would put that as a fourth question. What do we do about this? And this is where almost all the debate happens, and it's typically very political. And what's interesting is that it seems like most of the solutions, or at least the biggest class of solutions, comes from the kind of liberal, left-leaning, environmental type movement, which is, I would characterize as more in the Earth is what needs to be taken care of, and humanity's kind of an infringement on the Earth. And so that's, I would say, theologically a bad position to take, because obviously from a biblical or a theological position, we're here, the Earth is to provide resources for us. That's one of its roles. But what I would say from this perspective is that all the different political classes need to be offering solutions of how to deal with this. And the key to finding the best solution is the solution that is good for humanity as well as taking care of the globe. We talked in a different video podcast about stewardship. And I would say the best solutions are going to be the ones in the terms of stewardship. That look at how do we take care of the Earth, because this is how we're going to take care of humanity. So anything that requires draconian measures to humanity is probably not a good solution. But anything that neglects the problem is also not a good solution either.
Very good. Thank you for your comments, Jeff.